Amen. Let us stand and have pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank all of you for being here on this evening for our meeting on tonight. I want to thank in the audience from the Board of Commissioners, Doc Odom, who is our liaison. It's good to see him on tonight. Also from Fort Bragg, Miss Emily Grimes, who serves as our school liaison officer. It's good to have her here with us tonight. We do have one name for public comments. Mr. Knoll has been here several times, so he knows the drill. You got 3 minutes, and you will have a chance to speak, and there'll be no dialogue back, but we will respond back to you through paper. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Knoll. Mr. Knoll?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I wish to greet all of you folks. Some of you I know, some I don't. I'll be very brief. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I read with great interest the article in the Sanford Herald relative to transparency to be practiced by this relatively new board. I have my own thoughts about the term transparency. One, total transparency. That is the truth. Mr. Love will appreciate this. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Then there's abridged transparency, i.e. the truth, but short of the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Question 1. Which version of transparency will this board adopt? Number 1 or number 2? Question 2. I would like for you to advise me, or provide me rather, with the number of classes taught in each Lee County schools which are taught in a foreign language. And I'm not talking about just Espanol or Deutsch. Because the students which are enrolled in school today can't speak or understand the English language. Personally, I think English should be the national language of this country. Question 3. What is total cost per school to the taxpayers per year for these particular classes? I thank you for listening and anticipate a timely written response.
Thank you, Mr. Knoll. Thank you for coming and for sharing and for your questions, and we will respond to you in a timely manner.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Superintendent's report. Excuse me. Can we have an approval of the agenda for tonight?
Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. It's been moved properly second that the agenda would be approved. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same sign. May we have the approval of the minutes for July the 20th and July the 27th.
Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented for July the 20th, 2010, also July 27th, 2010.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Move Ms. Tatum, second by Dr. Smith. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Opposers have the same sign. Just point of personal privilege, Ms. Tatum, I think this is the first time I've ever seen you without a tie on at a board meeting. Yes, sir. Superintendent's report.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. If Mr. Noel will call my office, I'm not clear on what his expectation is. Okay, on exactly what it is he's desiring, what he's asked for tonight. I don't know how to respond to that. You have before you at your seats the ABC report that was approved by the Department of Public Instruction for your consumption at your leisure. It will identify those that made expected growth, high growth, the performance composites for each of our schools, those that made AYP, and the ABC status. You also have in your packet our open house dates, the schools, the dates, times, and locations. If you're in the areas during those times, please feel free to stop in and see what's going on. Yes, sir.
Also, one question. I had a parent ask me as to why San Lee and Wesley were on Saturday. That just happened to be the day they selected.
I don't know the rationale other than that's when the school improvement team and the staff decide on the dates. Unless, Andy, you know of other, that's typically left up to the schools and their school improvement team to decide on the dates that they feel parents will show up. Just as a sidebar, I was at a meeting today, and the question came up, why don't we offer things on Saturdays for parents, for open houses, for parent meetings, and think a little bit out of the box instead of pigeonholing it to what has traditionally happened to try to generate additional parental interest.
One thing that both those sites do is they try to hold a picnic.
Yeah, they do try to feed them. And we have found out if you feed folks, they tend to show up.
Give everybody an opportunity to be there.
You also have at your seats, not all of the superintendent goals. As you know, that's about an 8-page document. What you have are the inserted actual 2010 performance areas, so you can see our 08 performance, the 09 performance, the target we had set, our actual performance, and the 2012 goal. For what we have so far, we'll update it as we continue to get information in. You also have the ABC comparisons for our where we performed. 92.8% of our schools achieved expected growth. That was better than all of our surrounding areas. You also have the percentage of AYP and the comparisons to our surrounding areas and the percentage of free and reduced lunch. The last page you have is a comparison of our graduation rate for the last 4 years and how we compare to the surrounding districts. The categories are typical categories that you would see that most of the surrounding districts have a large percentage of students, so that it makes it a valid comparison.
Dr. Moss on SWD.
Students with disabilities. And if you look at it, you can see that we do very well with almost all the groups. I think when you look at students with disabilities, in 07 we were graduating 36% of those students, and this past year we graduated 61% of those students, which is a remarkable increase. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Morris. Any questions for Dr. Morris? Committee reports?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I just want to ask a question about why do we have on the AYP this time around? Why do we have a low number, 7 schools out of 15?
I think if you look across the state of North Carolina, and even the state as a whole, fewer schools made AYP. I think when you look at the retesting issue that came into play last year, allowed more schools than normal achieve AYP. That had a bearing on it. I think anytime you change the curriculum and the standard course of study, that has a bearing on it. Just like this year the bar will go up to 70
In 88.
70 and 88, and 71 and 88 in reading and math. As you know, that when the federal government put together the No Child Left Behind legislation, you had to incrementally increase the bar, the percentage of students scoring at or above grade level, to make it 100% by 2013-14. So this year, the bar will jump up dramatically. So what you'll see across the state are, I think it's fair to say, there'll be many more systems that will see a decrease in the number of schools that make AYP. AYP is also, I think, an unfair statistic. As we sit in this room, if all of us but myself was proficient, this board would be classified to be not performing because of one score. And that did happen at many of our locations. At Ingram it was 1 or 2 students, and a couple other schools it was 1 or 2 students. So I don't think it is a fair statement to say out of 600 students, because 1 or 2 students were not proficient, that the school was not successful because they didn't make AYP. It is an all or nothing, 100% or nothing statistic. And I think when you see the reauthorization that will take place this coming congressional session, that will be removed. It's been made very clear that that component of No Child Left Behind will be removed, and it will go more toward a growth model like North Carolina's growth standard. I think the standard that we should be very concerned about is, did our schools make growth? If a student is in our building for 180 days, they should grow 180 days worth of education if we're doing our job. And I think that is the more reliable statistic to determine whether or not teachers and schools are doing what they're charged to do, which is teach the curriculum and grow the students a year. And all but one of our schools met growth. I think that is a more reliable statistic. It takes me from where I am and ensures that in May I've grown a year for spending 180 days in your building. Adequate yearly progress doesn't do that. It doesn't take any of that in consideration. If I'm a student with a disability, I have a learning disability, it doesn't matter. AYP says you still have to be at grade level or you do not make the mark. So it does not take into consideration any of those extraordinary circumstances that students face.
Dr. Moss, I'm curious, is probably, and maybe I'm not thinking right, but would it be fair to say that it's really not easy to compare from one year to the next, the AYP, because, I mean, you've got a new group of students each year that make up the different subgroups within the school?
You do, and you can have a school this year without a subgroup that next year would have a subgroup, and vice versa. And it is not based on how well I performed in 4th grade and did I grow enough while I was in 5th grade. It's that snapshot, one shot in time. Doesn't take into consideration if you had a bad day testing. If you woke up with nothing to eat in the house that morning and you went to school anyway and you just didn't do well. It's like one shot, yes or no, no questions asked. That's why I don't believe adequate yearly progress is a good measure to determine whether or not students are growing in our schools. I think when you look at growth, that's a more reliable statistic. And Mr. Chairman, I did forgot to mention that I would like to ask the board to call a special call board meeting August 26th at 10 a.m. at Deep River Elementary School.
Just to put on notice, we will have a board meeting on August 26th. I'm asking that each board member please mark their calendars to be in place on that day, a business of significance importance. Now going to committee reports. Dr. Linda Smith, Curriculum and Instruction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The elementary and high school C&I members participated in a joint meeting on Thursday, August the 5th at Sandley Middle School at 11 o'clock a.m. Mr. Andy Bryan shared some instructional updates on A, AYP results for Lee County schools, B, the high school graduation rate, which was 73%, C, the preliminary ABCs results, D, grade level EOG, EOC scores, and the professional learning communities initiatives. Also on the agenda was the MOA for the elementary alternative learning program, which is you've seen in your packet. And Mr. Bryan answered questions about the number of students to be in the program the first year, anywhere from 16 to 20, the interventions that will be in place, parental involvement, the extensive documentation to be in place before a child in grades K-5 is recommended for the day treatment services. And supporting comments came from our administrators as to why this was a great initiative put forth by the Lee County Schools. And also on the agenda were draft professional development schedules for the one-to-one laptop rollout for Lee Early College, and drafts for Southern Lee High School, B.T. Bullock, and Deep River Elementary Schools. These were the professional development schedules. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Facility and Technology, Bernardi.
Mr. Chairman, Facilities and Technology has not met since our last board meeting. We're scheduled to meet on August the 24th at 5 p.m.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tatum, Finance and Personnel.
Yes, the Finance Committee had a call meeting on July the 26th. Had several items that the board has been made privy to through the minutes from the finance report of the Finance Committee meeting. I'd also like to say that those committee minutes are online on our website. I would also take the opportunity to share with those in the audience and those that may watch this telecast at a later date that thanks to Dr. Moss, since he's been here, I think we need to re-emphasize quite often that our financial report is online on the website. It's categorized by general ledger account numbers with the dollar amounts for each, and that if anybody in the audience or anybody in the public has any questions, they should refer those questions to Dr. Moss for clarification. Certainly through his Ask the Superintendent is a very good opportunity for that dialogue to be expressed. That's my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Tatum. Policy, Dr. Smith.
Mr. Chairman, since the board reorganization, the policy committee has not met. Our next meeting will be on August the 16th at 3 o'clock in the superintendent's conference room.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Mr. Sharp on the Ad Hoc Committee on Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have our committee together, and our first meeting is going to be August 16th at 5:30. John and I will be leading that committee, and we're looking forward to getting that going.
Thank you, Ms. Cameron. In your agenda, you have the approval of the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and probably second of the approval of consent agenda. Any questions? All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same opportunity. There's no unfinished business. Next thing on the agenda is the 2010-2011 capital outlay budget for the lottery. We will have to have a motion, and then we'll have discussion.
Chairman, I move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the revised capital outlay revenue total of $1,678,831.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second by the Smiths. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh. Any discussion? Dr. Marsh, anything you need to say on this?
Unless the board has a question, it's in a similar format you've seen since I've been here.
All right. And I've already passed it. So, so it is. Move on. That completes our open session agenda. I'll now entertain a motion from Mr. Bernardi.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Lee County Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of discussing information that is privileged, confidential, or not a public record under NCGS Section 143-318.11A1.
Second.
Probably second. Those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll ask the board to make sure that you please leave your iPads in place so that the staff can pick them up at this time. Dr. Smith?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the human resources reported as presented.
Second.
Moving properly second that we would approve the human resource report. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move we adjourn.
We now stand adjourned.